Part 1, Beginning. It was Halloween night in a small, quiet town. The streets crowded with children in costumes collecting candy. Among them was 17-year-old Emma, daring her friends to venture near the abandoned Greystone mansion at the edge of town. Locals whispered that it had been empty for decades, yet every Halloween, faint candlelight glowed from its cracked windows. Emma and her friends laughed nervously, ignoring the stories of disappearances and strange sounds. As they approached, the front gate creaked open on its own. The air was suddenly cold and heavy. A thin fog crawled along the cracked path, obscuring the long shadows cast by the skeletal trees surrounding the mansion. Inside, the floorboards groaned under their weight. The walls were lined with faded portraits, faces distorted in eerie expressions. Candles flickered along the hallway, illuminating carved pumpkins with twisted grins. The pumpkins seemed to stare at them, their carved eyes reflecting the dim candlelight. A distant whisper echoed from upstairs, soft at first, then growing louder. It sounded like a child calling for help, but no one else was in the house. The friends froze, realizing that the voices were coming from inside the walls themselves. Emma stepped forward, flashlight shaking in her hand, revealing more pumpkins. Each one had a face that looked unervingly human. The whispers grew closer. The mansion seemed to breathe around them. Every step forward made the shadows stretch and twist toward them. Suddenly, a floorboard behind them creaked. Emma spun around. No one was there, but the air was thick with unseen eyes watching. One of her friends tried to leave, yet the front door slammed shut before their eyes. Panic set in. This was no ordinary abandoned house. Something alive and aware lurked within, and it had noticed them. Part 2, The Living Mansion. Emma and her friends backed into the hallway, trying to stay together. The whispers grew louder, almost forming words. Stay forever. Every corner of the mansion seemed to stretch, rooms morphing into hallways they hadn't walked down before. A candle flickered, revealing the silhouette of a small child standing in the doorway. Its head was tilted unnaturally, and its eyes glowed faintly. One friend screamed, but the child didn't move. Then all the portrait's eyes seemed to shift toward them. The grins on the pumpkins twisted wider, more human, more malicious. Emma's flashlight flickered, then died, plunging them into darkness. From the blackness, a whisper directly behind Emma. You shouldn't be here. She spun around, but no one was there. Then a cold brush on her shoulder, like icy fingers, sent her to the floor. The others screamed, reaching for her, but their hands passed through nothing. Emma crawled toward the staircase. Each step groaned under invisible weight. Upstairs, she could hear faint giggles, whispers, and a dragging sound across the floor. A pumpkin rolled past her feet on its own, carving its path silently. Her friends followed, trembling, but the mansion seemed to shift. Rooms they had just passed through were gone, replaced by endless hallways and locked doors. The air smelled of decay, candles burning low, casting twisted shadows that seemed alive. Then, a voice, soft but horrifying, whispered her name from everywhere at once. Emma, stay forever. The mansion had marked her, and now it would show her its secrets. Part 3, The Whispers Grow. Emma's heart raced as she clutched the cold wooden banister, leading her friends up the narrow staircase. Each step groaned ominously, echoing through the mansion like a scream trapped in time. The whispers had grown louder, more insistent, circling them from every shadowy corner. They sounded almost human, but twisted, like voices trapped between worlds. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched impossibly long. Doors appeared where there had been walls, and walls where there had been doors. It was as if the mansion itself was alive, shifting with every terrified step they took. Candles flickered along the hallway, their flames bending unnaturally, casting shadows that seemed to crawl along the floor. Emma's flashlight flickered back to life, revealing a portrait at the end of the hallway. The figure in it, a young boy, stared directly at them. His eyes were impossibly dark, void-like, and his expression slowly twisted into a malevolent smile. One of her friends froze in terror. We shouldn't be here. he whispered, voice shaking. Emma nodded, her own fear rooting her to the floor for a moment. Then, from behind a door on the right, they heard soft footsteps. Slow, deliberate, heavy. No one opened the door, yet the sound approached. The whispers intensified, now accompanied by soft giggles and the distant sound of dragging chains across the floor. A sudden cold gust slammed the nearest door shut with a deafening bang. The mansion seemed to shudder in response, and the whispers rose to a chilling crescendo, chanting words Emma couldn't comprehend. Stay, forever, stay, forever. Emma's mind raced. She tried to think logically, but the air felt thick, oppressive. The shadows in the hallway seemed to reach toward them, stretching like hands made of darkness. One of her friends screamed as the wall beside him rippled, the paint peeling off as if something beneath it was alive. Realizing they couldn't go back downstairs. Part 4, The Hidden Room. Emma led her friends down the impossibly long hallway, each step heavier than the last. The whispers followed, circling them from every shadowy corner, low and insistent. The mansion seemed alive, breathing, watching, waiting. The flickering candlelight revealed more portraits, each with eyes that glimmered unnaturally, following their every move. At the end of the hallway, Emma noticed a door slightly ajar, hidden behind a thick velvet curtain. It hadn't been there before. A faint orange glow spilled from inside, accompanied by the soft scent of burning wax and something far older, like decaying wood. She hesitated but knew they had no choice. If they stayed in the hallway, the mansion itself seemed to close in around them. Pushing the door open, they found a small room. The walls were lined with shelves, each filled with carved pumpkins. But these pumpkins were different. They were grotesque, human-like faces frozen in screams. Their eyes seemed to follow Emma as she stepped closer. One pumpkin in the center was larger than the rest, and inside, a candle flickered, casting eerie shadows that made it appear alive. A sudden sound behind them made them spin around. The hallway outside had vanished. The door had disappeared. They were trapped inside the hidden room. Panic set in. The whispers became louder, now forming words that chilled them to the bone. Welcome to your harvest. Emma's friends screamed as the largest pumpkin began to shake slightly, then toppled forward. Its candlelight revealed a hollow inside, and something moved. A faint, almost human hand pressed against the inner wall of the pumpkin, as if trying to escape. The whispers turned into giggles, high-pitched and malicious. Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the room. The candle flames flickered violently, casting shadows that stretched across the walls, forming shapes that resembled the friends themselves. Trapped, terrified, frozen in pain, Emma realized the mansion was. Part 5, The Pumpkin's Grasp. Emma's hands shook as she pushed open the door from the hidden room. The hallway outside had returned, but it wasn't the same. The walls seemed to pulse slightly, as if breathing. Shadows crawled along the floor, stretching unnaturally toward them, whispering their names in a chorus of chilling voices. Ahead, the staircase led upward, but each step they took seemed to stretch endlessly. It was as if the mansion itself was testing them, drawing out their fear. The whispers grew louder, now accompanied by faint giggles and dragging sounds, as if invisible feet followed their every move. Suddenly, one of her friends tripped over a loose floorboard. A pumpkin on a nearby shelf rolled silently toward him. It stopped at his feet, candlelight flickering, and the carved face twisted into a grin that mirrored his own terrified expression. The whispering intensified. Join us? Stay forever. Emma grabbed her friend's arm, pulling him back, but the pumpkins seemed to animate, rolling forward, shifting positions, blocking their escape. Their carved eyes glowed faintly, like embers in a dying fire, following every move. She realized the mansion wasn't just haunted. It was a predator, and the pumpkins were its minions. Another pumpkin, larger and more grotesque than the rest, toppled from a high shelf. Its hollow center revealed a faint, moving figure inside, reaching outward as if to grasp them. Emma's flashlight flickered, revealing dozens of tiny, shadowy hands emerging from other pumpkins, stretching toward the group. Panic surged. They ran down the hallway, trying doors at random, only to find each one led back to the same cursed corridor. The whispers now formed words Emma could understand. "We see you. We know you. You belong here." Her heart pounded as she realized that the mansion wasn't trying to scare them. It was trying to claim them. And every second they hesitated, the shadows grew bolder, the pumpkins more animate. Part 6. The Escape or the Trap. Emma led her friends down the impossibly twisting hallway, every step heavier than the last. The mansion seemed alive, walls pulsing as if breathing, shadows reaching from every corner. The whispering voices had become deafening, chanting in unison, "Stay, stay, forever." Suddenly, the hallway opened into a vast ballroom. The ceiling was high, covered in cobwebs, and the floorboards gleamed under faint candlelight. Dozens of pumpkins, all with grotesque, human-like faces, lined the perimeter. Their glowing eyes followed every move, unblinking, hungry. The group froze as the largest pumpkin in the center began to shake violently. From inside, a distorted hand clawed at the hollow, as if trying to escape. But the voice emanating from it was clear, chilling, almost human. "You cannot leave." Emma felt her pulse spike. They had no choice but to run. They sprinted toward the far end of the ballroom, but the walls shifted, elongating, closing in. Each pumpkin seemed to roll forward on its own, blocking possible exits. The whispers now mocked them, calling out their deepest fears, twisting their names into horrific, distorted forms. One friend screamed as he was grabbed, not by hands, but by shadows emerging from the floorboards. Emma tried to pull him free, but he vanished into darkness. Another pumpkin toppled, rolling toward them with the hollow center opening wider, revealing dozens of tiny, writhing faces inside, screaming silently. Finally, Emma reached a staircase that appeared at the far end, leading upward. She grabbed her remaining friends, running as fast as they could. The mansion groaned, walls bending to try to push them back. Candles flickered and died, leaving only darkness. As they reached the front door, the whispers converged into one final warning. Once seen, always remembered. Emma threw the door open. A gust of icy air slammed them outside. The mansion loomed behind them, silent for the first time that night. Part 7. The Haunting Aftermath. Emma and her friends finally reached the lit streets of their quiet town. Hearts pounding, lungs burning, but relief was fleeting. The mansion loomed behind them, silent and still, as if nothing had happened. Yet the air remained unnaturally cold, and an unsettling quiet followed them down the street. They tried to laugh it off, telling themselves it was all a prank, a combination of fear and imagination. But Emma's gaze fell on the single pumpkin left on the mansion's lawn. Its carved face wasn't just any face, it was hers. The faint glow in its eyes pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Emma would hear whispers in empty rooms, distant giggles echoing through hallways. Shadows moved unnaturally along walls, sometimes taking the shape of the mansion itself. The pumpkin from that night never rotted. It sat on her porch, glowing faintly in the dark, a constant reminder of what she had seen. Her friends reported similar experiences. One claimed to hear soft tapping on windows at night. Another saw fleeting shadows that weren't there a moment ago. Every Halloween afterward, the whispers returned, calling her name, reminding her that the mansion, and whatever lived inside, had marked her. Emma realized that the mansion wasn't just a house. It was a predator, and the pumpkins were its hunters, collecting those who dared to trespass. Once it chose you, escape was only temporary. The mansion remembered. It waited. Years later, locals claim that on Halloween night, a faint glow can be seen at the top of the hill where Greystone Mansion stands. And if you're unlucky enough to wander too close, the whispers begin, faint at first, then insistent. Come, stay forever. Emma still keeps the pumpkin on her porch. Its eyes seem to follow her, glowing softly in the night. She knows it's only a matter of time before it's back. Halloween is no longer a night of fun. It's a warning.